Hey everybody, and thanks for watching Woodcrest Bonsai. Today I'm going to cut back a number of Firebush. Some people call these things something different, but we call them Firebush here. And they produce a bright red flower, which is why they're called Firebush. Now as you can see, this thing is 6 feet high, but it's only in an 8-inch bulb pan. And it has a trunk less than half an inch. And this was a seed that I collected in August of 2023. Planted them in the spring of 2024. So this is a year old. And this is stage number 1. Just let it grow. I have never done anything with this except give it some water and fertilizer and let it go completely crazy. And now I'm going to cut it way back. Way back. If you notice, Firebush is an opposite leaf grower. You see these two stems are directly opposite of each other. And here's one where 3 are coming out. So that's how they grow. But everywhere where there's an old leaf is a bud. So if you look right here, there's a bud right there. There's buds down here. There's another one right here. And I am going to chop it to this bud right here. There's also a bud right here that's almost directly above it. But I'm going to go to this one. So the only thing I'm going to do with this thing today is that. And the whole rest of it gets thrown in the trash. And then I don't even think I'm going to work on the roots, because I checked the roots out and there doesn't seem to be any circling roots. So now, because this bud is pointing up, that's where the new growth is going to come. So it's already got this kind of interesting movement in the trunk, which it did all by itself. So then the next step is to let it grow again, completely unchecked, for another probably year, depending on how quickly I want to start to style it. And then, in theory, this part will be twice as big. Many people that grow bonsai won't show you this because this is boring. It's like, okay, now what? You showed us a big stick and now it's just a little stick. But this is how I create my trees. And there's a certain amount of time from the time you plant the seed to the time you have a tree that's beginning to look like something like a bonsai, and even more time from the time that it's a finished tree. But this is part of the process. So it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 more years before this tree really begins to look like anything. But I know that it will, with the proper care. So now let this bud sprout and let it take off. And how many times I do that, and how big of a pot I give it, and whether I put it in the ground, and how thick I let it get, that's going to determine how big the tree is. So if I want a really big tree, then I'm just going to take this out of this pot, put it in a much bigger pot, let it go crazy again 2 or 3 or 4 more years, and I may end up with a trunk, about like that. Then create a larger tree. If I want a smaller tree, when this growth begins to emerge, start cutting it back and attempt to create a tree. But that's the initial stages. And I've got 6 or 8 of these, and I'm all going to do the same thing. And I'm not going to bore you with just chopping a big stick down to a little stick. But that's the beginning process. Once again, this is a Firebush. Fairly popular shrub in these parts. So, growth and reduction. Bonsai is a constant and continuous series of letting a tree grow and then cutting it back, and letting a tree grow and cutting it back. And even an old tree that is what we call finished, there is still that process. You let a tree grow and then you cut it back. But instead of this drastic kind of procedure, you're taking a tree that has a lot of different limbs and ramification, and you're just basically pinching that new growth off to maintain the form. But it's still growth and reduction. This is just, in the beginning stages, it's just a much, much more drastic procedure that as the tree grows and develops, the amount of growth is less and the amount you chop off is less. There are far more places to cut, but every time you cut, you're cutting off much less on a finished tree. So there you go, the beginnings of a bonsai. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and if you don't believe me that this is going to end up being a bonsai tree in a few years, hit the notification bell, and every time I work on these trees I will show you their progress and what they're looking like. And leave a comment. I know there's a lot of people that are scared of this. This is the single biggest fear that beginners have, is making massive chops like this. But this is a perfect example of the bud is right there. You can see it with your naked eye. On some trees you don't see the buds, but they're still there. So don't be afraid to cut back. If you do want to try to start growing your own trees, don't be afraid to cut back hard. And you need to know your material. It needs to be the correct season, and so on and so forth. But so I've already said thanks for watching. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, hit the like button, and I will see you in the next video.